Hi folks, and Happy New Year to you all. I've been back now for probably about 2 weeks, and yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick update on how the van was on its shakedown. Obviously I've kind of give you an idea of what happened on the trip and everything, but I just thought I'd go over what I found worked or didn't work with the van, and what changes I have made already or I'm about to make. But before I get into that, I just wanted to also say thank you so much for all the messages about the trip, and obviously thank you so much for everybody that's donated to the fund. I will obviously be making a video about that soon, once the fund, it's got a time frame that they've set up on it. Once that closes, they've then got an amount that they can then turn into products that the hospital's sent a list of everything it needs, and then once we get to that stage, obviously we can then work out how we can best help again, whether it's just me flying out there to help deliver those products, or whether we can do another round of trying to collect power banks, heated blankets, LED lights, that kind of stuff, and possibly drive over again. Worked out about 2,500 miles I did in my van, and probably about 1,000 miles that I did in the rental van as well. So heck of a lot of mileage for 8 days. So after 2,500 miles driving through pretty much snow, gritted roads, ice, muddy roads and everything else, the van was looking pretty filthy. And yeah, obviously kind of needs a wash really before we start taking it into the workshop. Plus I also wanted to see if there was any other bits on there that I needed to look at. You know, it is a shakedown, so it's a mechanical and, you know, interior build and everything else shakedown. So I wanted to check everything, check all the light connectors, you know, the wheels and paint jobs and everything else. So yeah, I suppose it was a good test of everything. The fact that it got 2,500 miles winter abuse in, you know, 8 days. It's like I suppose car manufacturers do to the testing circuits of new cars and things like that. So as you can see, it was pretty filthy, but yeah, got the Karcher out, or as it is, the Ryobi power wash. Can't call it a pressure washer, it's a power wash, and that made, you know, easy effort of sorting it all out. Cleaned it all up, and I think the only downside really was a bit of paint loss on the plastic paint from all the diesel that had spilled out when I filled up. I don't know what the case is with European diesel pumps, but yeah, literally as soon as you fill the nozzle it starts spewing out. So there we go, all nice and clean now. There was that little bit where it's, I think it's diesel that's been dripping as I've been filling up. So yeah, the beauty about Plastidip is quick spray and it's all blended in, matched in again. So yeah, that's why I love Plastidip. Just fired the diesel heater up because it is still around about 1 or 2 degrees. So it's quite amazed that none of it's frozen up as I've been washing it. But I am going to do the rest of the debrief and talk about the van inside because it's cold. And I don't know if you can hear the ticking. You can only hear the ticking from outside, by the way. Oh yeah, quite happy about that. But yeah, I'm going to go inside and then we'll talk about the rest of it then. All is well in the van world. You know, everything worked out all right. As far as sort of the technical side of the van, there were a few little niggles. First of all, even before I set off, I changed the antenna. So I moved away from the big daft antenna. Started to have really daft issues with it. Basically, if you were in a 5G area, it worked great. If you were in a 4G area, it didn't work so well on 4G, unfortunately. The EE band is different than most other bands in the UK, and therefore I'm suspecting that despite it saying that its technical remit covered that band, it didn't cover that band so well. So I got replaced with a pointing 5G antenna. So another victim of my testing trip that's been dropped is the 5G ZTE router. I've removed my SIM card from it. It worked on 4G okay, but as soon as there was an element of 5G, it just powered off, regardless of what was going on. Just simply powered off. which is quite annoying. It happened a couple of times on the way to Poland, and I just kind of reset it and carried on. But midway through the repair of my van, I was obviously monitoring what was going on through my CCTV, and then I just lost connection. Not only did I lose connection to CCTV, but I lost connection to the EcoFlow system. So I didn't know if my power had gone or anything else, just like totally gone. So that really annoyed me. So I've replaced the router. So that's the Netgear M2. I just need to find a place for it to sit now, a bit more securely than that. But that's been more reliable since I've got back and changed it anyway. So it's what we had in the last van, and yeah, just seems to do the job. Yes, it isn't 5G, but in all fairness, if I want 5G, I'll just use my phone as a hotspot. And the rest of the time, I'm perfectly happy with 4G. Which so far, touch wood, has been rock solid reliable. The only thing that hasn't been reliable is the pointing 5G antenna. Obviously the router I've gone for, the M2, isn't a 5G router. I have worked out I don't need 5G, and the places you do get 5G are more built up areas, and it's a bit sneaky what they've done. Whilst they've installed 5G, you don't get 5G speeds everywhere. You might get a 5G signal, but most of Europe on 5G is still only getting like 10 megs, something like that, which is pretty pathetic really. So I've sent all the gear back, got a refund. Not going through all that hassle again with 5G. I'm just going to write it off. Now, going back to the CCTV and remote monitoring of the van, I'd put a Blink CCTV system in. Right then folks, this is my Blink outdoor kit. Four cameras, and 4 external housing systems to go on the outside of my van. It was okay in the daytime, and it was okay at night as long as you're in a well illuminated area. But as soon as you went somewhere without any lights whatsoever, the infrared on the Blink system was not strong enough to illuminate more than about 5 feet away from the van. So that basically just wrote off any kind of night vision whatsoever. So the other problem with the Blink system though is that the camera itself is sort of like inset in the plastic housing, which means obviously as on a moving vehicle you're traveling around, all the dirt, water and ice and snow gets collected in that recessed camera chip. So the lens actually doesn't get anything blowing past it, it actually gets things blowing into it. Which meant, like, you know, as soon as you stopped anyway, you had to climb up on the roof, clean the lenses out. Yeah, so along with the issue of no real night vision, just the fact that, you know, the lenses just, well, the image just looked crappy all the time. They went as well. I removed them, and I've just put the truck system that I originally set my mind on for the van back on. It's only 720p, so it's not sort of full HD, but it's perfectly okay. It's the same spec as the last one I had. I couldn't find the Halo View truck system anymore. I don't know what's happened to Halo View, but they don't seem to be offering a 4-camera truck system anywhere that I could find. So I've gone for another system. It was a 2-camera system, and then I've added 2 separate cameras on top. Strangely enough, I would love to place some links down below for you all to get it, but pretty much as soon as I bought it, I had a problem with one of them. I opened it up inside, and the board had fried, or whatever had happened with it. It just yeah, stopped working. So I went to buy another one, a separate camera, and they don't sell the separate cameras anymore. So I have to buy another double system, and then return that double system with the faulty camera. So essentially the only way to do it now is to buy 2 systems, which means you end up with 2 screens, which you might think is a good idea because you can do, you know, monitoring front and back with 4 cameras. No, each camera is synced to the screen, and you can't double sync, which is a bit of a pain. Now, moving on, a couple of things. Update on the toilet. I've got a video to make on the toilet because I've realised I'd not actually give you a full review of the toilet, how it works and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people have asked how's the toilet getting on, so I'm going to do a bit of review on that one as a separate video, or the next video I'll include a lot more about the toilet. Fridge and freezer both work fine, absolutely brilliant. Like TARDIS, the amount of stuff that you can get in them very efficient. When they're both running, takes about 4 amps, 4.5 amps. So yeah, they kick in and kick out maybe about every 20 minutes, half an hour. Certainly the freezer does more than the fridge. So yeah, no issues. Everything else worked okay in the van, so diesel heater works fine. Insulation wise, no issues whatsoever. I had the diesel heater on probably for about an hour before I went to bed, switched it off, woke up in the morning, switched it back on again to warm it up, and then got out of bed. My insulation held out pretty good actually. I was quite pleased with that. That's obviously my fresh, that's my waste, and I've got another bottle of what's left of my fresh in the back there as well, which, don't forget, that's the only duct that goes out to the back, so even that didn't freeze. And a few questions that people ask as well, and that is, are the panels cold to touch? And no, they're not. Really warm actually. So even like here where there's my temporary sofa, down the back there, still warm, no condensation, you know, no sort of like idea that it's really cold outside. Sink works out all right for doing the old wash in the morning and washing the pots and getting a drink and all that kind of stuff. Lighting, I am severely lacking lighting, and USB points and power points, but obviously that's part of the next phase, which is going to be all about you know, adding the rest of the build to the van. But I thought I'd just give you a bit of a recap of, you know, how things worked, how the van worked. Obviously you know what happened with the wheel bearing fault. That has been replaced, as were the discs and pads on both sides and the hub. However, I do have quite a nasty judder when I brake now, so I've yet to to book that back in to get that looked at. It feels like a warped disc, which is really annoying considering they're two brand new discs at the front. But yeah, I just have to book it into a garage and get them to look at it. I've had both wheels off, checked the discs and everything else, and they both seem fine. So my suspicion is potentially whatever they've installed has been misaligned, something like that. There's no wheel wobble while I'm driving down the road, so only when I apply the brake, which would sort of like suggest maybe it's a warped disc as well. I don't know. Or it could be a bearing that's just a bit finicky. So it's a bit annoying, but in all fairness, you know, the 300 and something pounds that I paid to the garage in Poland was probably far cheaper than repatriation costs to get the vehicle back anyway, so I'm just going to play it down that way. So yeah, it's time to get back to van building, and unfortunately the way that I built this van to get going as quick as I did does mean that I didn't finish any of the surfaces off of the walls and things like that. So part of my next phase of van building is potentially stripping out everything I did to finish off these walls, to give them an actual finish coating, so I can then put them back up again and then start to build the cupboards over my head and doors and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, potentially bit of a waste of time, but it's all right. They're built very kind of easily to, you know, take in, take out. So the whole van was built that way, and that such that I could make changes quite easily. The layout I'm well impressed with. Got loads of space, bed's dead comfy, the seating area with the table and all that kind of stuff all works out well. I may in fact probably am going to make the driver's seat into a swivel base as well, just so that you can lounge a bit more on this sofa then if I'm watching TV or watching a bit of YouTube or something like that. Obviously Mandy and I have shared the van for a couple of weeks over Christmas, and whilst it's alright, if you do want to lounge around for any length of time and you don't want to sort of lounge around in the bed, then yeah, I think having the driver's seat swivel so it extends this couch a little bit is a good idea, so I may look at that one. I kind of shot myself in the foot because on the passenger side I put a swivel base and a short seat base in there as well, which means I've kind of got to do the same for the driver's seat, and it kind of doubles the price of just having a swivel seat base. Hey ho. But yeah, life moves on, and so does the van build. So yeah, I shall see you soon with a bit of van building. See you later, folks. Bye.